that I'm not going to allocate agency funds to print the legacy. And the reason for that is it doesn't need to be printed. Right? Why doesn't it need to be printed? Well, and why not? Those are two important questions, right? So let's talk about the why doesn't it need to be printed, and then we'll talk about, well, why now? Okay? So I went back and went to our program review results. It was just 2016, and we had Jill Van Wyck from Drake. I don't know if you were here, if you met her when she was here, but she did a visit, and she observed everything, and she sat in some classes, and she got a good sense of how journalism works here at Lindenwood. And these are her remarks. All right, so these are direct quotes. All right.
This was in 2016?
Yeah.
Okay.
The curriculum and the campus news media should make online publication, social media, and mobile strategy priorities. Bringing all three outlets under one umbrella would streamline the workflow, enhance identity, foster an attitude of digital first, and more realistically reflect the reality of today's news organizations. This will not be an easy undertaking, and I'm not blind to the likely disagreements over issues of control and audience, but I do think it's the right direction and will improve students' experience. Attention should be given to mobile platforms for creating, editing, distributing, and audience engagement. Americans, young Americans particularly, get an increasing amount of news from social networks and consume that news on a 4-inch phone. And we know that to be true, right? Or a 4-inch screen. I encourage you to ensure that your curriculum gives social and mobile the attention they deserve as they transform how news is produced, published, and consumed. I also encourage you to continue your shift in thinking about the role of video storytelling more broadly than traditional TV news. Video is exploding. Of course, we know that. Journalists who know how to tell stories with video are in demand not only at local TV stations, but also at magazines, newspapers, websites, social networks, and in corporate and nonprofit communications. I'll leave this with you, but look for every opportunity to incorporate and integrate social media and mobile news gathering and publishing. Ideally, the organization of your campus media would mirror the direction your curriculum is taking toward multi-platform converged publication. So why now, right? Well, we are currently investing thousands of dollars to create a converged media lab in McClure Hall, right? So now is the opportunity, right? And that's what we should be talking about. That's what I want your feedback and your input. And we need to continue this conversation. But how does that work? We have LUTV, KCLC, The Legacy, Lindenlink, and multiple social media channels. How does that work together to achieve that? Because that's what we need to get to. We can do all of that, and we can do all of it now because we have the space. We have the programs, we have the facility, the technology, we got stations, we got platforms, and now how do we all work together to get to the point where we are digital first, and you guys have those highly refined digital skills that you're going to need to really be successful, and also open, as this reviewer said, all those potential job career opportunities. So that's the why now. So converged media. I asked Mike to come along because Mike's done some research into this. In fact, I would say Mike is an expert on this. And so I'd like him to just give you, just a quick overview so you guys can continue to wrap your mind around what are we talking about here? What does all this mean? We have someone to help us, along with, of course, your expert faculty and our broadcast faculty and our several of our communications faculty, our digital content strategy faculty. How do we all work together where you guys can come out and graduate have those specialized skills.
Well, in terms of being the expert, I'm the biggest expert in about a 6-foot radius here, so I'll go with that. It just so happens that this is sort of the sweet spot, if you're familiar with that term, on a bat or a golf club, because 4 or 5 years ago, we were trying to get a communications building, and that was part of what we were trying to get built in, was this space to do more converged media, because you all know, evidence right here, that these things are okay, right? They help you write a good story, that helps you tell the story. So how can we integrate those things in a way that's meaningful, help you understand, have skills that are going to get you hired in a very competitive workplace, and stepping up our opportunities that we can help you have will help us achieve that goal. So from the standpoint of where we are right this minute, is one of the things that will happen over the next few months is trying to develop a workflow, an understanding of how the converged space will work for Lindenwood, because any kind of template that you have needs to be adjusted depending on what you've got, how many people you've got, what you're trying to accomplish. And I believe that for you, this is going to be really valuable, because you are going to really help us determine what those things are, what's going to work, what doesn't work, how you can give us insight back into how we can improve things, and taking it from where we are right now, where we have 3 different facilities, primarily TV, radio, and print, as we've been, all working in different spaces, in different buildings to some degree, and now having this one spot where we can get our students trained in a way that is going to be useful.
The multi-platform.
After, yeah. So it's our people who are in the electronic media, they're going to have to take on some writing skills that maybe they haven't done quite so much, and you maybe have to invest a little bit more in video storytelling and audio storytelling, and be a little bit more in graphics. But those are things that, it doesn't change the content of what we do.
There's an example. Jill gave an example, and I thought it was pretty interesting. For example, students could write Facebook or Twitter posts promoting the stories, live blog an event, curate coverage of a breaking news event, tell a story using Snapchat, shoot and edit a video story using only a smartphone. So that's the multi-platform. So, there's a story, whether it's breaking news or a feature story or a purely educational story, or, a special interest story, there's a story, right? And it can go out in little bits through social media, like the Twitter piece, and maybe that directs them back to our web presence, and there could be a longer story there, or maybe that story gets even expanded and there's a whole video story, and maybe some of that gets reduced down to now it's a news story on LUTV, and there's an audio part for KCLC.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Right
So
off the bat,
there
might not be as obvious a distinction, but for a television newscast, you have this much space, right, to get all the story in there. And so if there's a major story, LUTV or even the local, KMOV, they may have a minute and a half, 2 minutes to dedicate to this major story. And so they shoot a package and that's all they have. Well, there's a lot of video, more than likely, that was shot. A full interview or a full news conference or more eyewitness accounts or whatever. And those are all things we can post on an online newspaper. It doesn't have to just be that package. We can publish all the witness accounts the entire news interview, the entire interview with the chief or whatever. And so that really expands the capabilities and sets up a pretty clear distinction between what the difference would be for video for television versus the video for an online platform.
And there's something else that I'd like you to consider, think about, is how do we get to a point where people are subscribing to your work, right? Where it's coming to them. They don't have to go find it. Where, they opt in, and as things are published, it goes to whatever platform on their phone, right, that they have selected. Where it's delivered right when we say it's delivered. You say it's delivered, and they don't have to go looking for it, right? Because, I don't know how many things you subscribe to, but the things I subscribe to, they just come to me. Sometimes it's through an app, sometimes it's through email, and, you get the little banner on your phone. The publications I'm interested in staying on top of, they're just right there for me. I don't have to work. I don't have to look. How do we get to that as well? How do we use our, these multiple platforms to let people even know that's possible, right? So, lots of things, right, to discuss and to consider. So, thoughts, questions?
I guess my main concern is, and this is something we ran into a few times since I started here, is, it's great that we've got the radio station, we've got Legacy, and we've got LUTV. Oftentimes, we'll be like, hey, we'll go to, I forget what event that was. Well, we went there already to shoot a video, and we got there, and there were 2 LUTV cameras already there. It feels like we'd be stepping on each other's toes a lot to do the same.
How do we coordinate?
And that's exactly what converged media is all about.
Okay.
It's like, imagine you've got a story and you've got to do research, and I've got 3 different entities doing the same research, right? In a converged media platform, and I'm not saying this is going to be easy for us to figure out right off the bat, but ideally, 1, maybe 2 people, so you can have people double checking each other, are doing the research for the convergence. And then you send somebody out, and you may have slightly different things. I'm sending you out with a camera, I want you to focus on this aspect. I'm sending you out, I want you to get video on this. But you're right, to shoot the same thing from 2 different angles at 20 feet, other than from an academic standpoint, at least one other person gets to use a camera and learn that, which there's some value to that, but really in terms of hopefully the people who are the managing and doing most of this work don't need extra practice on how to set up a tripod.
Right, yeah. Kat, I think you had your hand up.
Is Lindenwood going to talk to the MCMA and try to maybe, on our behalf, ask them to open up more slots for competition? Our magazine won 17 awards this past year. Without a paper magazine, we will not be allowed to compete as a paper magazine.
Are there other categories?
Mm-mm.
Wait, what do you mean, like, we won't be able to?
We won't be able to compete. Our magazine, we won't have one.
So let me ask
We're
you
not
this.
having a magazine next semester?
Yeah.
No, we're getting rid of it.
Okay.
Why?
So let me ask you this about that, and I have no idea. So
Well,
this
can I
is,
know why first?
Well, you already talked about that. You came over.
We'll catch up later.
so I'm ignorant about this. So when you say a magazine or a newspaper, we will still be publishing, just not printing a
It has to be
newspaper.
print.
Does it have to be printed?
Because every other school has a print
We
publication.
would then be the only school in our district.
How many copies do you have to print for it to be eligible? I mean, you just print a copy of what you published online?
As far as I know, it has to be in circulation.
The printed version has
Yes.
to be circulated.
Oh, okay, then I would, I know,
Yeah,
I'm
if
splitting
you guys
hairs
are
here,
more
I'm
than
splitting
willing to
hairs.
talk to them to maybe
That's-
open up
Yes,
more.
that sounds like something we need to
Okay,
address.
then my other question for
Absolutely.
you guys is, how are we going to pay back the contracts we have currently with, I think, 4 different companies in the area? Because just stopping this with no promise is going to look really bad on our end, because they were promised to have ads in our printed magazine for the next 2 semesters, and we took their money already.
Yeah.
And we don't have that money to give back to them.
Susan gave me those names. Or did you
Emos
just
is one
give
of
me
them.
No,
Well,
I haven't gotten them yet.
I'm trying, I think emos is the only one, honestly, but
And
sent
I
a
will
message to
personally reach
Hunter
out to
because I
them.
can't find
Yeah,
the
if you
Find
guys
the
are willing to do
situation.
that,
And we will refund their money.
Alright.
Absolutely.
Alright, can we go back now? Can you guys please explain to me like a 10-second rundown why we're getting rid of the magazine?
And I don't think that's the right way to say it. We're not getting rid of it. We're just not going to print it. There can be an electronic version of it. I mean, there's one online right now. I was looking at it just the other day. It's the last one, right? And you can flip through the pages. It's a magazine. It's online. I mean, there's thousands of magazines online. So that's not a fair statement to say we're not going to have it. We're just not going to have a print, hold in your hand version.
But you can print it and hold it in your hands.
Yeah, sure.
how so?
People wanted to do that.
Well, because it should be available in a PDF file.
Yeah.
So why not?
So just like print it like as like computer paper, or?
Because, well, there's, first of all, the expense. You know, I mean, that's pretty obvious of how much we pay Missouri Press or whatever. Is that what they are? Missouri.
But the point is, you know, people are consuming the news electronically, right? We all do. That we can't argue that, and so it's going to be there for people to consume. It's just how do we back to our recommendations?
We're in the middle of it right now.
The multi-platform where they can consume it on their phone, their tablet, their computer. They can get notifications. Hey, latest edition of Legacy's out, and it's right there. They don't have to go look for it. It just comes right to them. That's the way the world's working, right?
Yeah, I understand where you guys are coming from, especially with the idea of convergence and, trying to find multi-platform reporting and figuring out how to address the ever-changing environment with the media. But what I have to say is that the print magazine is something that can't be replicated online, quite frankly. It's, it's something that students look forward to. It's something that I have got just glowing feedback from students that I know and students that I don't know on the content that we're publishing, the things that we get to feature people on. And, having the website is fantastic. And I'm so grateful that we have to have that experience. But the print magazine offers, like I said, an experience that's like no other, to be cliche at this point. And it's something that puts us at a very disadvantageous position in comparison to other colleges in the area because, we had the entire Missouri Media Conference the conference back in April, and we had students that were coming in from local 2-year universities, and I don't know how that's going to stack up for Lindenwood recruitment wise when they could get the experience of a print magazine at another university. It's a very crucial part of our education, and to be quite frank, it's irreplaceable.
And to add to that, have you guys talked to the other departments? I'm technically not a journalistic major. I'm graphic design for print design. So if you remove the print magazine, I now have no way to get that experience on campus.
So if I'm understanding, the only thing that's different is print.
Essentially, but there's a lot more involved in the print experience than there is in an online replication, and especially with the deadlines and something even as simple as learning how to work with a team, because the staff is in the office all weekend working on a magazine, and those are experiences that you just won't get with an online publication. And I don't understand why it would have to be the print version that would be canceled, because if I understand correctly, it's only around $2,000 to publish one edition of the magazine. And, we were never contacted about potentially only doing like a certain amount of issues per school year. It's really kind of a blow to us, because this is just, this is big news. And how are we supposed to work with that news? I'm having trouble understanding why it would be the print magazine. Like, what was the issue aside from budgetary reasons?
What I read, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to have that digital first curriculum?
Sure, I mean, which we do, most certainly. We have a strong digital presence, and I've worked extremely hard over the past semester to increase our digital presence because I see that is an extremely important part of furthering our education. But our digital presence and our print presence rely completely on each other. I mean, they go hand in hand. And our visibility on campus is ultimately going to decrease because, when you're walking around, you see the legacy, you see the editions of the magazine. I can't simply reach everyone.
And that's why we have to continue these conversations, especially when everyone gets back from summer break, because we can increase the awareness. Because people are looking at their phones way more than they're looking for a newsstand in a building, right?
I beg to differ, quite
Not
honestly.
here, definitely not here.
I go to people's houses, I go to people's dorm rooms, and they have the Legacy magazine sitting open. I see people reading it on campus.
It's even reaching outside of St. Charles County.
Well, you can still get the same experience of publishing, designing, laying out a publication without actually pressing print. You can publish it online in multiple formats.
Understandable, yeah.
So
but then,
this is about new opportunities. It's not that, hey, we're not going to have a hard copy as it is now, but what does it look like moving forward now that we have really endless possibilities? So that's where I'd like you to think about it, and I'd like you to do some research, and let's work together to make this transition, seize this opportunity. But we need to work more together, not just the folks that are in this room, right? All the media, all the student media at Lindenwood. How do we work together to lead to lead other institutions, to lead in higher education, to become the place?
I feel like we can still do that though, and also print the magazine, because that's what we've been doing this whole time, is working together with LUTV and KCLC.
And you have worked together. I wouldn't deny that at all. But now we have an opportunity for so much more collaboration because we have that space, right? And that space is wired to this TV station. Those folks have made sure that all that will be in place. And obviously, like I kind of keep saying, we're gonna have more conversations about this.
I don't know how these
Not
for a print publication, because that's going to be something that employers are going to ask me for, work in print versus work that's just solely published online. Because if I have an employer that wants to see my work moving forward, I highly doubt that they're going to scroll through a magazine online for one story, 2 stories.
Well, bring me some ideas. How about that?
Okay. And for a printed version of something?
Sure. Bring
Okay.
me some ideas.
I don't know, obviously answer this. Do we have a budget for maybe more signs and stuff around campus? Because if we're not gonna have printed copies that people might see.
Yes, we have at school, we now, first time ever, each school has a budget. And within that, I will make sure that we maximize those resources so every program gets what they need. So if we need some new signs because we've changed our distribution model, then that's what we'll do.
I would like some new signs for that.
Yeah.
So would there be an option for a magazine with less pages? Maybe just 1 or 2 stories, or some other content?
Maybe
that
a
would
newsletter
decrease,
printout?
Decrease the price, I'm sure.
Bring me the ideas.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of really good concerns have been mentioned. I think that you've got some faculty in this room that are going to be able to work with those concerns and work within in the confines of not printing, assuming that we never print again. If that is the decision that's being made and we can't come up with a solution that's something we want to explore, I feel like these 2 individuals are fully capable of working with you guys and coming up with ways to give you the experience that you seek and you feel like you may be losing.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit disturbed about the idea that we can't compete if we don't have a circulated.
I'm
gonna check into that.
Just
Yeah.
Google universities
That doesn't make
stop
sense.
printing. And it's an amazing collection of
Streetscape.
conversions and stuff.
Right? They're done. No more print.
So, if we can have possibly another edition, another idea for something in print, why not the magazine?
Well, because the magazine is part of the student media here, right? That needs to work together in the digital platform. That's exactly why. I mean, I'm interpreting where you're going with this, print something out like just a specialty piece for a special occasion kind of thing. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to see it, and I don't expect you to just have ideas right now. But yeah, I mean, there's gonna be occasions where something might need to be printed, but it's not the routine media that we are publishing.
It's
That
stories that
needs
you
to
want
be fast, and it needs to be digital, and it needs to be in multiple platforms.
It's
Multiple
stories that you
formats.
want to be published though. Like you have to look at it first. That's what you said.
No, I didn't say that. I said this bring me an idea of what that might look like.
I'm just a little confused because Mizzou has had convergence for years and they still
Not really.
but they have for a while. I've been here way longer than I should have been, and when I graduated high school, Mizzou has had convergence. They still have a magazine, and they're doing perfectly fine. A newspaper, they're doing perfectly fine.
Okay.
So,
But we're not Mizzou, and we are following our recommendations. We're following the industry, right? And we're Lindenwood, and then Mizzou can do what they want to do. Whatever other schools that have journalism programs can do what they want to do, but we want to be the best Lindenwood, and we have things that a lot of schools don't. A lot of schools don't have a TV station and a radio station, and a newspaper, and a website, and social media, and screens throughout the campus. I mean, we need to leverage all that, work together. So please focus on the opportunity, not so much the change, because the opportunity far outweighs the change.
So I totally believe you that everything is going online. That's the kind of the trend recently. I would be concerned that possibly employers who are not in this industry wouldn't understand that. And so if I go and I say, hey, I printed this thing entirely online, if they don't follow the industry, they might not like that as much as someone who comes from a school that has a printed paper. I'm not talking about going into the newspaper industry, I'm talking about like advertising or,
Well, we're talking about journalism here. And I think I might tend to agree if this were 10, 15 years ago, but not in 2018. I don't think anyone would question electronic publication. Especially if you guys, if the design and layout component is important for your skill set, you can still do that. You can still do that. You can still, the graphic design pieces still can come into play. It's just published in a digital format.
So do you have any ideas for us moving forward about what we could do that could be a print publication?
No.
Did you
I
guys,
hadn't thought about it.
I mean, yeah. What was the feedback that you guys received for the magazine, though? Because I can't understand why something that's so popular, I think, among students would be.
And award-winning.
Yeah.
Well, depends on who it was, depends on which issue, but I heard all range of feedback.
Mhm.
That's not the issue here. The issue is what's best for your what's the best academic experience we can provide. That's what this is about. And we need to take the recommendations that we have, and they're very clear of what direction we should go in. And so it's a little bit different. It's more fully digital than we've been. I agree. But that's clearly what our recommendations were, and we need to follow them.
Why weren't we involved in the decision making of getting rid of the magazine. Instead, we're just being told straight up front that it's just gone.
It's not gone, we're just not printing it.
But like, why weren't we part of that discussion if it's for our benefit?
I talked to your faculty members, and then they invited me to this. And if I need to have a meeting with all the journalism majors when they come back, we can do that too. But it's going to be the same discussion.
Where's Sean Rock at today?
I don't know.
I just want to know why, like, I just feel like he should have been here. What did he think about the magazine?
He's on vacation today.
So my recommendation is this is a paradigm shift in a way. It's different than what you've been doing. My suggestion would be to, from here, go make some notes, you know, and the instructor side of me says, come up with as many ideas, constructive ideas, that you can have moving forward from here, how we can take the best of what we've been doing and how we will continue to do that going forward, understanding that some very basic structures might change.
But if there's nothing wrong with the print magazine, then why get rid of it? If there's nothing wrong, we're taking everything that we're doing well and keeping it going, why get rid of it if there was no problem?
But this goes back to the same rationale. It
We
doesn't
could-
need to be printed.
But there's so many like newspapers and other magazines that are still in print, and print's gonna be a big thing for a while. It's not disappearing.
It's disappearing.
It won't
I-
disappear overnight,
I was saying, I
unfortunately.
disagree with that.
No,
I could understand and justify this change 100%, and I would say 5 to 10 years, but there's still print. and it's very much
I
alive.
guess my point I'm not quite understanding here is, the plan is to keep doing everything we're doing, just not printing it. So from your standpoint, you should still be able to get the experience that you've been getting to this point, only the distribution will change from I can pick it up there till I receive notification on my phone and I can read it there.
Well, the way you make print and the way you make things online is completely
That's right, but
And
there's
we-
nothing,
That's exactly right, and we need to do it all.
that's right.
Yeah,
So if we need to do it all, then why
but
get?
the print part can be saved. Dr. Lively is more of an expert on this than that.
You can say it's an interactive PDF. You guys do it already. I mean, you've
Yeah,
got-
it's already-
You've
it's
got
already
the
there.
magazine that looks like it's flipping your pages. You
We
know.
don't do that. That's actually for an application we're paying to do that for us.
Okay, well, you can do it in InDesign.
Yeah.
You can do that. So you can make your own interactive PDF like that, and you can have the same experience in regards to layout. You can put the same stories in there. It's just not on a piece of paper. And it's kind of cool too, because if you've got, let's say you got a relative in Alaska, just boom, shoot them a PDF, they can interact with it right there on the spot.
And also, you know, we're going back to our recommendations, right? This gives you an opportunity to really increase the video storytelling. Legacy could have a video story.
Problem is that we're extremely understaffed. We don't have
Yes,
enough.
Yeah, we
that's
don't have
right.
staffing to do that at
Yeah,
all.
that's right.
Even if you get rid of the magazine, we're still gonna be severely understaffed.
This-
How do we overcome that challenge?
We need more people.
Just more people or more?
No, I think there's also
more-
another side
more
to that.
structure,
No,
more
we
team.
definitely need more people because we have people in there right now that are taking on multiple roles. And even if we get rid of the print, they're still gonna have to take on multiple roles, they're just different.
So you're asking a question, it's a big question, and I don't think it's one that we can answer as accurately as we'd like to right now, other than the fact that part of convergence means there are more people to do more work because we don't need to send 3 people out to shoot video. We don't need 4 people doing research on different things. So hopefully a more efficient workflow will help that. But really, from my side of it, is that many businesses and newspaper businesses or journalism have to work on a very efficient staff. And sometimes that means that within what we're trying to do, because we deal with this all the time. One semester we may have 42 students, and the next semester we've got 20 students, and we have to make priority changes based on the amount of people that it takes. That's what happens in the commercial world. You're dealing with, we're making this much money, how are we gonna spend that money? Sometimes and so it keeps changing. And so it's an excellent question. It's the same question that we have at LUTV. How many people does it take to put on a football game, right? And so we have to make those priority changes. And that's something that we'll only tell as we work through the new process. Right now in this room, it would be untruthful for me to try to tell you exactly.
Maybe I can help. We're a learning institution, not just a TV studio, so limiting the number of students we can use to do this is taking them out of the equation for the learning process. So we're going to have more people, yeah, by the end of the time they graduate, they're going to be thoroughly versed in how to do it, but what about the hundreds of kids that want to do this, but can't because they were told we can't hire them?
Well, that's a whole different issue there.
It's the same issue.
Well, and
Well-
I think it's hard too because you're comparing us to like news stations and like actual publications where that's their only job. But we have this, and we have schoolwork, and we have classes, and we have other obligations that people that are just focusing on a job don't have. And I think that's very unfair to compare us when we need more people. Like saying we need to work on an efficient staff, that's not possible here. That's just not possible.
I think increasing efficiency is always going to be a goal for every organization.
But we still need more people to
So-
do that,
so-
or else we're gonna have crap quality.
You know, our efficiency is next to none on the staff, in my opinion. And journalism is an entirely different school of study than, you know, something like videography or whatever students would be lending their pieces to our publication. And it would be 10 times more of an issue for us to have to sit down and say, okay, you know, I have to look through this entire video, I have to look through all this, I have to look through this, just to make sure that it stands true to journalism's ethics. And I think that would be, you know, extremely difficult for the staff, especially, like I said, as we are understaffed already.
It's a decision that the journalism department has had to make since we first started the journalism, because the idea for the Lindenlink originally was it would be an online news source. So if I go to MSNBC or any, you know, the stories are updated, what, every 20 minutes or more frequently from that. Well, we obviously couldn't do that. So we had to structure it so that we could adapt to the number of students that we have. And again, it's a matter of the tail shaking the dog. You're the important component here, making sure you do what you can do. If we have 3 people working on the legacy, then what we would put out would be reflective of the work that those 3 people could generate. Hopefully we never get to that. But that's the whole point. It's your learning laboratory.
But we need to learn how to do print because print still exists. And like I am
Exactly.
actively
I agree.
looking for
Agreed.
a job in print after
Right.
I graduate.
I agree.
And if you take it away, what am I supposed to show future employers?
We're not taking any of that away.
You're taking away the print. Yes.
No, we're taking away I'm hitting the print button. Everything
Yeah, but
up
there's
there.
so
Still
much
different. It's
involved
still
in the
different.
print process
Absolutely.
as well. I mean, selecting papers, selecting sizes,
Right.
learning the design and how to accurately design something to go to print.
Exactly.
And it's not even the experience necessarily, because I do agree that the experience will be extremely knocked due to the fact that it won't be in print anymore. But, you know, again, like I said, our visibility as a magazine, as a publication. I do agree that we can still get that visibility online, but it's not the same. And that's the end of the
Yeah,
story.
and it's not the same. Agreed,
It's
but
not the same.
So will you be providing funding for advertising? Because without the print, half the visitors to our Lindenlink site would not be there.
Yeah, we had ads for things on Lindenlink in the magazines. So half the people that were be coming to our
And
site
since
aren't going to show up anymore.
Those stories weren't posted the same time the print magazine went out. that was a week or a month after
Yeah,
the magazine.
that's something that we'll just have to take in stride and figure out the best way to work through and come up with a new model as we go forward for the advertising.
I would think we would need to start being a bit more proactive in trying to reach students, so we should be at freshman orientation, we should be.
Absolutely, you're spot
various
on.
other events trying to, we could use a big sign, that'd be nice, but, you know, we'll have to put some legwork into it probably.
I went to the balloon release for Tiffany Saborin, and her family and friends asked me to bring 20 copies of the magazine so they could mail it to her family and friends around the country. I said, you can go online, like we've just put the story online. No, we want a hard copy. They all wanted a hard copy. They don't want to go to a website because they wanted to keep it. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I have family that do the same, and I have people here. Every time a magazine comes out, oh, can you grab me one? Oh, can you grab me one? I'm like, I mean, they know it's online because I also tell them about that, and it's everywhere else, but people want the hard copy. I mean, we have hard copy textbooks. We could get those all online, but we don't. It's the same. I don't understand.
All of my managers looked forward to the magazine when it came out because I brought a copy at every release day. And it got around the whole store, and they liked what we did.
And that had people, high school level, coming from the St. Charles area to our campus to maybe think of coming here to Lindenwood. So we're going to be getting rid of a possibility of bringing in new students, which I have been hearing rumors that we're low on students as well.
Well, I don't think not printing the legacy is going to have all these terrible repercussions. I think the value of going digital, 100% digital, and working together more with the other students, other programs to reflect the industry, reflect the lion's share, the majority of the industry, is the direction we need to move. And with this new lab and all the opportunity that presents, this is the time. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate your feedback. And when students, the rest of, everyone comes back in the fall, faculty, students, we need to get people together. And we need to talk about how this can work. We need, there's lots of ways it can work. We need to agree on an initial way and some structure, something that makes some sense, something that's flexible. Make sure everybody working together, but they also get the specialized instruction and develop the skills specific to a particular major. And for you guys, that's a lot of skills. There's a lot of skills, and they're all highly electronic digital skills. In addition to the, obviously being a good writer. That's the foundation, right? So you need to be a writer and a tweeter and a videographer and a blogger and all those different ways to communicate ideas and share stories and news and events. So I look forward to working with you in this next, through this transition. I assure you I'll be as supportive as I possibly can be throughout this whole transition. And I will be your biggest cheerleader too. So thank you. And I will see you at the end of the summer, start of the fall.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
I'll see you guys in a bit.
Okay.
I'll bring you a lei or something. Not that they do that where I'm going, but.
My journalist died yesterday, and now we get this today.
Part of this for me, from my perspective, is having you people in the room is really important because you're the ones who would understand whatever impact not printing would have. And then I'm going to do the really nasty thing of asking you, how do we minimize that? Not right now, but eventually, because you understand better than anyone, and the decision has been made. And so we need to find a way to minimize the impact of not printing.
So if we were to happenstance find the money on our own to do it, would you stop us?
that, it's not up to me, but it's my understanding the decision has been made.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, going back to what I said earlier, it's great that we have all these programs, but because we have all these programs, print was our thing. If
That's
we're
right.
going online, LUTV does that for video at least.
well, but there's a really big difference between TV news and video news online. I mean, LUTV should have, like I say, it should have its 2 minutes of that, because that's something we absolutely need to do for LUTV. And then when it comes back, we've got these different things. That's one of the exercises I did when I was in South Carolina, is happened to be a big news story, and it was fun, and it was really eye-opening for me as we went around the table and everybody started suggesting the different things, the ways that it could be covered by the different media and the capabilities that one has over the other. And if we had left that day to do it, everyone would have had some really clear-cut directions on what to do and how we were going to bring that back and what the end goal was going to be based on what we thought we could get. We have more of a challenge now because you guys have other things that you need to do. One of the reasons that the super semester is the way it is because before we had the super semester, we still did LUTV news. And it was mediocre at best because people would come in, they'd sit down to write the news. They just came from their biology lab. They'd sit down to write the news. Then we had somebody come in 10 minutes later who was in their English class. And so we do the news at 3 o'clock, but I got to be done by 3:30 or 4 o'clock because I got another class to go to. So we completely restructured it. So that's the only classes you can take that day, are those classes that make up the super semester. So we could take the amount of time that it took to put together a newscast. And it increased exponentially, of course, based on the students that you have each time, and et cetera. But you could tell immediately there was a huge difference in the quality and the way it was.
So are
Whether
you
it-
suggesting
whether-
you do the same thing
I don't
for the
know.
magazine?
They would know better.
Because
I'm
doing
just-
that's going to remove myself out of the equation, because since I'm not in that major, I can't do super semester.
I'm not in that major either.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
lose our one designer and our chief editor-in-chief.
Well, that's a challenge we'll have to look at, right? I mean, that's why you guys are so important in this whole thing right now. It's helping us transition. And you've been such a good crew and a good staff that I would certainly expect to get some creative ideas. And so,
I just don't want to turn into like clickbait where we have to make ourselves sound so interesting that people have to click on us or else we're dead. You know?
well, it depends. We haven't really talked very much at all about content. And that's one of the things we have to do. You know, one of the first things is who's the audience, right? We have to talk about that, decide that. I don't necessarily know that answer myself. But then you get into, okay, so what is interesting to those people? Do we go back to having student movie reviews? And, you know, like, I don't know. You know, that's the deal, so. All right, so I'm gonna get out of here.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Neil, and thank you, Susan, and thank you all for coming in, and I'm sorry that this is depressing news for you. But, you know, I think that there's some real possible growth possible out of this, and so going forward.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Susan.
Yeah.